There was once a woman who wished very much to have a little child. After much unsuccessful wishing, she went to a fairy and said, "I should so very much like to have a little child. Can you tell me where I can find one?"
"Oh, that's easy," said the fairy. "Here is a barleycorn of a different kind than those a farmer might plant and the chickens eat. Put this into a flower pot and see what happens."
"Thank you," said the woman. Then she went home and planted it, and immediately there grew a large, handsome flower, something like a tulip in appearance, but with its leaves tightly closed, as if it were still a bud. She kissed the red and golden-colored leaves, and the flower opened, and she could see that it was a real tulip. Within the flower, upon the green velvet stamens, sat a very delicate and graceful little maiden. She was scarcely half as long as a thumb, and she gave her the name of Thumbelina. A walnut shell, elegantly polished, served for a cradle. Her bed was formed of blue-violet leaves, with a rose leaf for a counterpane. All her things were made small, just like she was. Thumbelina could also sing so softly and sweetly that nothing like her singing had ever before been heard. One night, while she lay sleeping in her pretty bed, a large, ugly, wet toad crept through a broken pane of glass in the window and leaped right upon the table.
"What a pretty little wife this would make for my son,"
said the toad, and she took up the walnut shell in which little Thumbelina lay asleep, and with it jumped through the window and into the garden. In the swampy margin of a broad stream in the garden lived the toad with her son. He was even uglier than his mother, and when he saw the pretty little maiden in her elegant bed, he could only say,
"Croak, croak, croak."
"Don't speak so loudly, or she will wake,"
said the toad.
"and then she might run away. So we will place her on one of the water lily leaves out in the stream. We'll make haste and prepare the state room under the marsh in which you ought to live when you are married."
Thumbelina woke very early in the morning, and she began to cry bitterly when she found where she was, for she could see nothing but water on every side of a large green leaf, and no way of reaching land. The mother toad swam out with her ugly son to the leaf on which she had placed poor little Thumbelina. The old toad bowed to her in the water and said,
"Here is my son. He will be your husband, and you will live happily in the marsh by the stream."
Croak, croak, croak,
was all her son could say for himself. The little fishes, who swam about in the water beneath, had seen the toad and heard what she said, so they lifted their heads above the water to look at the little maiden. They saw she was very pretty, and it made them very sorry to think that she must go and live with the ugly toads.
"No, it must never be!"
So they assembled together in the water, round the green stalk which held the leaf on which the little maiden stood, and gnawed it away at the root with their teeth. Then the leaf floated down the stream, carrying Thumbelina far away out of reach of land. Thumbelina sailed past many towns, and the little birds in the bushes saw her and sang,
"What a lovely little creature."
So the leaf swam away with her farther and farther, till it brought her to other lands. A large bird flew by, and he caught sight of her. He seized her round her delicate waist with his claws, and flew with her into a tree. The green leaf floated away on the brook, and a butterfly flew with it. for he was caught to it and could not get away. Oh, how frightened little Thumbelina was! In the nest were his other bird friends, and quickly they realized.
She has only 2 legs. How ugly that looks. She has no feelers,
said another.
Her waist is quite slim. Oh, pooh. She's like a human being.
Oh, she is ugly.
Even though Thumbelina was very pretty. Then the bird who had run away with her flew down with her from the tree and placed her on a daisy, and she wept at the thought that she was so ugly that even the birds would have nothing to say to her, and all the while she was really the loveliest creature that one could imagine. During the whole summer, poor little Thumbelina lived quite alone in the wide forest. She wove herself a bed with blades of grass and hung it up under a broad leaf to protect herself from the rain. She sucked the honey from the flowers for food and drank the dew from their leaves every morning. She searched high and low for anyone that would have her, until she came at last to the door of a field mouse, who had a little den under the corn stubble. Poor little Thumbelina stood before the door just like a little beggar girl, and begged for a small piece of barley corn, for she had been without a morsel to eat for 2 days.
You poor little creature,
said the field mouse.
Come into my warm room and dine with me.
The mouse's house was as fancy as could be. She was very pleased with Thumbelina, so she said,
You are quite welcome to stay with me all the winter if you like. But you must keep my rooms clean and neat, and tell me stories, for I should like to hear them very much.
And Thumbelina did all the field mouse asked of her, and found herself very comfortable.
We shall have a visitor soon,
said the field mouse one day.
My neighbor pays me a visit once a week. He is better off than I am. He has large rooms and wears a beautiful black velvet coat. He would make you a fine husband indeed. But he is blind, so you must tell him some of your prettiest stories.
But Thumbelina was not interested in her neighbor, for he was a mole. She sang to him as the mouse had asked, and the mole fell in love with her, because she had such a sweet voice. A short time before, the mole had dug a long passage under the earth, which led from the dwelling of the field mouse to his own, and here the field mouse had permission to walk with Thumbelina whenever she liked. Walking through the passageway, they saw a bird who appeared dead. Thumbelina was very sad to see it, as she did so love the little birds. But the mole pushed it aside with his crooked legs and said,
He will sing no more now.
Thumbelina said nothing. When the 2 others had turned their backs on the bird, she stooped down and stroked aside the soft feathers which covered the head, and kissed the closed eyelids.
Perhaps this was the one who sang to me so sweetly in the summer. You dear pretty bird.
That night, Thumbelina could not sleep, so she got out of bed and wove a large, beautiful carpet of hay. She carried it to the dead bird and spread it over him.
Farewell, you pretty little bird,
said she. She laid her head on the bird's breast, but she was alarmed immediately, for it seemed as if something inside the bird went thump, thump. It was the bird's heart, and he was not really dead, only numbed with the cold. The warmth had restored him to life. That autumn, Thumbelina stepped outside of the mouse's house and saw an injured swallow on the ground. She brought it some water to make it better.
Thank you, pretty little maiden,
said the hurt swallow. He told her that he had wounded one of his wings in a thorn bush, and could not fly as fast as the others, who were soon too far away to hear him cry out. Then, at last, he had fallen to the earth and could remember no more, nor how he came to be where she had found him. The whole autumn and winter, the swallow remained underground, and Thumbelina nursed him with care and love. Neither the mole nor the field mouse knew anything about it, for they did not like swallows. She nursed him in secret. Very soon the springtime came, and the sun warmed the earth. The swallow bade farewell to Thumbelina, and she opened the hole in the ceiling which the mole had made. The swallow asked her to go with him, but Thumbelina knew it would make the field mouse very grieved if she left her in that manner. So she said,
"No, I cannot."
Tweet, tweet!
sang the bird as he flew out into the green woods, and Thumbelina felt very sad. Later that spring, the field mouse said,
"You are going to be married, Thumbelina. My neighbor has asked for you. Oh, what good fortune for a poor child like you. Now, we will prepare your wedding clothes. They must be both woolen and linen. You will want for nothing as the mole's wife."
But Thumbelina was not at all pleased, for she did not like the tiresome mole. Every morning when the sun rose, she would creep out of the door so that she could see the blue sky, and wished so much to see her dear swallow again. When the next autumn arrived, Thumbelina had her outfit quite ready, and the field mouse said to her,
"Oh, in 4 weeks the wedding must take place."
Then Thumbelina wept, and she said she would not marry the disagreeable mole.
"Nonsense,"
replied the field mouse.
"Now, don't be obstinate, or I shall bite you with my white teeth. He is a very handsome mole. The queen herself does not wear more beautiful velvets and furs. His kitchen and cellars are quite full. You ought to be very thankful for such good fortune."
So the wedding day was fixed, on which the mole was to fetch Thumbelina away to live with him, deep under the earth. She would never again see the warm sun, because he did not like it. The poor child was very unhappy.
"Farewell, bright sun,"
she cried,
Tweet, tweet!
sounded over her head suddenly. She looked up, and there was the swallow himself flying close by. As soon as he spied Thumbelina, he was delighted. She told him how she didn't want to marry the ugly mole, and to live always beneath the earth, never to see the bright sun ever again.
Cold winter is coming,
Said the swallow.
and I'm gonna fly away into warmer countries. Will you go with me? You can sit on my back and fasten yourself on with your sash. Then we can fly away with the ugly mole in his gloomy rooms, where the sun shines more brightly than here. Fly with me, dear little Thumbelina. You saved my life.
Yes, I will go with you, said Thumbelina, and she seated herself on the bird's back, with her feet on his outstretched wings, and tied her girdle to one of his strongest feathers. Then the swallow rose in the air and flew over forest and over sea, high above the highest mountains. At last they reached the warm country, where the sun shines brightly. Beautiful children ran along the country lanes, playing with large butterflies. As the swallow flew farther and farther, every place appeared still more lovely. At last they came to a blue lake, and by the side of it, shaded by trees of the deepest green, at the top of one of these trees was the home of the swallow who carried Thumbelina.
This is my house,
Said the swallow.
but it would not do for you to live here. You would not be comfortable. you must choose yourself one of those lovely flowers, and I will put you down upon it, and you shall have everything that you can wish to make you happy."
"This will be delightful," she said, and clapped her little hands for joy. A large marble pillar lay on the ground, which, in falling, had broken into 3 pieces. Between these pieces grew the most beautiful large white flowers. So the swallow flew down with Thumbelina and placed her on one of the broad leaves. But how surprised she was to see in the middle of the flower a Thumbelina little man, as white and transparent as if he had been made of crystal. He had a gold crown on his head and delicate wings at his shoulders, and was not much larger than Thumbelina herself. For a Thumbelina man and a Thumbelina woman dwell in every flower, and this was the king of them all.
Oh, how beautiful he is,
whispered Thumbelina to the swallow. The little prince was at first quite frightened of the bird, who was like a giant compared to such a delicate little creature as himself. But then he saw Thumbelina. He took the gold crown from his head and placed it on hers. He asked her name, and if she would be his wife and queen over all the flowers. This certainly was a very different sort of husband to the son of the toad, or the mole with his black velvet and fur. So she said yes to the handsome prince. Then all the flowers opened, and out of each came a little Thumbelina lady, or a little Thumbelina man, all so pretty. Each of them brought Thumbelina a present, but the best gift was a pair of beautiful wings, which had belonged to a large white fly. They fastened them to Thumbelina's shoulders, so that she might fly from flower to flower. The swallow sang,
"Tweet, tweet!"
and from his song came the whole story.
If you enjoyed this story time, check out our other exciting titles.